wanted you to try 1, 2, and 4, but if you tried the others, we will also go over those just so you can see it. If you didn't, it's okay. We're going to see how well the board works today, because it's not been helping me, yes.
Remember one that I got 2?
We're going to do it both ways.
Or the Y1 or the Y2 and the Y2.
Okay, so we're going to do it.
I got A over 2.
You could have done this one of 2 ways. Counted or did this algebraically. So if we were counting, we'd be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would give us a negative 6 over 4, and we could simplify that to be negative 3 over 2. So that should have been your slope. Now, you could have done that algebraically. You have points given to you. I'm just going to rewrite them. So if you were doing this algebraically, you would be doing your y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Excuse me. So let's say these are my 2's. So that would be negative 7 minus a negative 1 over 2 minus a negative 2. The minus minus will become a plus. So that we have negative 6 over 4, and then it would simplify to that negative 3 over 2. Questions on that one? Did you have a question? Say that one more time. Yeah, so counting would probably be easier than doing the slope formula, but you could do either way. Number 2, it shows you this line x equals 3, and it wants you to describe the slope. So whether you remember your Hoy-Bucks, horizontal lines have 0 slope and are y equals, and vertical lines have undefined slope and are x equals. Because this is an x equals, the slope is undefined. You could have also counted. We have a rise, but we don't have a run, so there'd be some number over 0, and then we get an error. So that would have also told us undefined. Questions on that one? And then for the last one, for number 4, if we want to do 3, sure, I'll do that afterwards. So this one, we would do the algebraic part the same. x1, y1, x2, y2. So we would do negative 1 minus 2 over 3 minus 5. The answer is what? Negative 3 over negative 2. And then the negatives cancel each other out. So that should have been a positive 3 over 2 for your final answer. Questions on that one? I can look at yours in 1 second if you want to. Okay, Adrian, you said 3. Yes, I can do that. So this one, I didn't want you to try, but if you tried it, that's fine. This one was different because it's almost in slope-intercept form, but not. So to get rid of that 2/5, we have to take that and multiply by the reciprocal. Take it, flip it, multiply on both sides. So if we were doing that, the 5/2 and the 2/5 would cancel, leaving just y. Then I'm going to be multiplying this to both of these things. So in your calculator, you could have multiplied these two. The 2's would have canceled, so just 5x. And then for this one, that would be 20 over 2, so plus 10. And then it asks you to find the slope. What is the slope? 5. Just 5. Questions on that? Yes. This one.
Yeah, why did you put
So it should be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus y1. Other questions on this before we move on? If you have an iPad, I need you to go ahead and close it because we don't need it for the next part. So everyone that has an iPad, go ahead and close it. Slap up, thank you.
so we're gonna call something?
Okay. First, let's talk about delta math. Everything updated, so I keep doing that. The slope part 1, where you have to find the slope from a graph, is asking you to find the rise and the run. So of the line given, we're going to find a point that crosses grid lines exactly. So like this one wouldn't work because it's not at the grid lines. That one wouldn't work, that one wouldn't work, but that one would because it crosses at the grid lines exactly. Then find another point that does the same thing. This is the one from Friday, the slope from. So maybe like right here. You could have also done that one. I didn't mean to do that one. Okay, so I'm going to go from this point to this point, but I want to draw my rise line, how far I'm going up or down first. So I'm going to go up to this. And then I'm going to go draw my run line. So I'm going to go over from here to here. And then I'm counting. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Try again. Okay. I don't think I typed that in right. 4 divided by 5. And whatever you put in needs to be simplified as possible. And then that should tell you if your slope was right or not. Okay. Other delta math questions before we move on? Okay. You guys can grab gumballs now or later. Okay. Alright, so when we write equations from a graph, we have to identify the slope and the y-intercept. And then once we identify those two, we're going to write this in slope-intercept form. We talked about this last week. Anyone remember what that format is? And y equals mx plus b. Good. Do you have a question? No. Okay. So always we're going to be using this. Remember this. It will be helpful for future. So in the first couple problems, they list out or they have a spot for where m is, where b is, and then we write the equation. And then stop doing that. We are still going to keep doing that. But if you don't need that, then you don't have to. So the graph is a little blurry, but try to the best of your ability to read this. The easiest point would be to find the y-intercept. There is a point that crosses right there, and then another one that crosses on the y-axis right there. So, looking at these 2 points, or if you can see it on your graph, what is the y-intercept? where does that cross the y-axis?
Is it
It's
one
negative 3, yes. So negative 3. I know, it's very blurry. And then we're going to count the slope.
And then 1.
So I would be going up 1, 2, 3, over 1. And that would simplify to just 3 over 1 or just 3. And then I'm going to put those two in my slope-intercept format. So that would be y equals 3, put m in, x minus 3. Questions on them? On to the next one. So for number 2, same thing. I'm going to show you where the points are. What is that y-intercept?
2.
Positive 2. And then we're going to count the slope. So this would be going down 1, 2, 3.
3.
And then to the right, 2. So because we're going down, it's going to be a negative 3 over 2. How would I write that equation? Y equals negative 3 halves, or negative 3 over 2, x plus 2. Good. Questions about that? The next ones don't have that part, but we're still going to do that unless you don't need it. So for this one, again, I'll show you where the points are. What is that y-intercept? 2. Positive 2. I'm going to write that off to the side. And then we're going to count that slope from one point up and then over. What is that slope? Close. 2 over 5. And then we're going to use those two to write our equation. What would that look like?
Nice Diego.
What's our equation for this one? Y equals the whole thing. 2 this. X plus 2. So whatever the slope is, you need that entire fraction. Include that in there. Do you have any questions on that one? I want you to look at numbers 4, 5, and 6. Are there any others we want to see? Do you go over?
Is 4 for the slope for the 1?
Close. You're going down and to the right, so that would be
So
a negative.
3 over 1. Wait, what do you mean? Was that 3 over 1 plus 3?
So you would simplify it. Y equals negative 3x.
Even if it doesn't go over the 1.
Say that one more time.
Even if it doesn't go over the 1.
So the y-intercept of the slope. Which one are you talking about?
For 3, so you said negative 3. But then you go down 3 to take out negative 3.
Yeah, so from here to here, so if I went down 3 and to the right one. That part. So anytime you're counting down and then over, that's going to give you a negative. Okay. Number 1 was positive. This one? Yes. And number 4 was negative. Yes, the slope. Because the direction changed. So here we're going like this. Whereas this first one we're going like this. The direction changed. Jessica, you said something? Sure. Okay. what is that y-intercept? 3. And then let's count that slope. It's over 2, but how much did it go up?
Oh,
3 over 2. So what would that equation be? Y equals 3 over 2 x plus 3. Good. You were confused about what part was there? So here, I'm starting at this point. I'm counting up 1, 2, 3, and then over 2. Okay. Look at the back. Numbers 7 through 12. They're similar, but do we have any of those we want to see you go over and have questions about? Do we have any questions on number 7 through 12? We're going to do 13 and 14.
On this page.
What did you say? Oh, anyway. For 13, we're given different graphs, and we need to figure out which of these equations matches this graph. So, if I'm looking at the y-intercept, I know it has to be -2. I can eliminate which ones do not have that y-intercept. So A does not have that y-intercept. C does, B does not, and D does. So it's going to be C or D. And then we're going to figure out which one has the slope of 1/3. So it is D. Because this one has a slope, I'm going up 1 to the right 3. Where this one, I'm going up 3 to the right 1. So it's switched. Okay, questions on that? Okay. 14. Similar, but different. Now we have a graph, and we have to look at which of these equations matches. You can't eliminate based on the y-intercept because they're all the same. But we can look at if it's going to be positive or negative. So would this line be positive or negative? Negative. So I can get rid of the positive ones. So it's going to be C or D. Is this slope -2 or -1/2? Say that one. -2. Because I'm going down 2 to the right one, or up 2 to the right one, either or. So C was our answer for that one. Questions on that? Come on to the next page. And I want you to write this at the top. So horizontal lines have 0 slope and are y equals. Vertical lines have undefined slope and are x equals. Eddie, did you write this down? So if we have some graphs, so previously we talked about the slopes of these graphs, but now we're going to write the equation of these graphs. So if we have some vertical line, it's always going to be some x equals whatever that is at the x-axis. So in this case, this would be x equals, what is that number? 3. Yes. And then for the horizontal lines, anytime we have a horizontal line, it's going to be some y equals x equals 3. It's going to be y equals -1. So wherever that y crosses. Okay, I want you to take a minute or two and do the next 6. number 5, the line is right on top of the y-axis. Double check your answers. Number 1, x equals -2. Number 2, y equals 3. Number 3, y equals -5. Number 4, x equals 4. 5 was x equals 0. And then 6, y equals 2. Do you have questions about any of those? Make sure you're keeping the x and y's straight in your mind. And then we're going to do one last thing, and then you guys are going to practice. So go on to the next stage. So this is like a repeat of what we did last class. We're just doing it as a great refresher. You'll need it for one of your lessons. So slope-intercept form we just talked about is our y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. And then for these problems, they give you the slope and the y-intercept. So you are just putting those together in our slope-intercept form, kind of like we were doing from the equations, but just from the slope and y-intercept. So I'm going to skip around. Number 2, I have -3/5 for the slope, and my y-intercept is 4. How about I put that together in my slope-intercept equation? Y equals -3/5 x plus 4. Good. We'll do one more. Number 6. This is -5/2, or 5/2. Y-intercept is -3. How would we write that equation? Y equals -5/2 x. Good. Are there any others on this side that we want to go over? What is number 5? 5. Okay. So for that one, how would I write that equation? Y equals 1/4 x. You could put plus 0, you don't have to. So you could leave it like this, or you can put plus 0. Either way. Okay. Other questions on that side before we do the right side?
Number 5 is
4. Yeah, it's similar. Yeah. Or you can write it as either. So number 4 you can write with the -1, or you can just put -x. They mean the same thing. Okay. The right side, we did this last class, but as a good refresher, we're going to do it again. So this side is in standard form, ax plus by equals c. Don't need to memorize that, but you need to be able to recognize it. And we're trying to get y by itself to get it back in slope-intercept form. So if I have something like number 1, I'm trying to get it back in slope-intercept form. I need to get rid of the 2x by moving it to the other side and subtracting. So that these would cancel, rewrite y equals, I'm going to switch these two. So that it's in slope-intercept form. do another one. So in number 2, same process, we're trying to get y by itself. So we would do what first? Subtract 4x to the other side. I'm going to switch these two, so it's negative 4x minus 30. And then our last step, divide everything by 5 separately. So we have y equals, this would not simplify, that would stay the same. But this would, what would that give us? Negative 6. Are there other problems in that section we want to see, do go over, have questions about? So I want you to skip the next page, the one that says point slope formula at the top, and I want you to look at the page that looks like this. I don't know if I actually did it. Okay, but it's different. Okay, and find any questions from numbers 1 through 6 that you want to see do go over. Skip 7 through 18 because those we haven't covered yet. We're doing that next class. Or numbers 19 through 24 on that page. Any of those we want to see do go over, have questions about. Or on the very last page, numbers 1, 2, 3, or 4. Any of those we want to see do go over, have questions about. Okay, so then I need you to do 2 things, and then after you do those 2 things, you can work on other missing delta math from last week, from previous, work on finishing tests, work on retake work. But the 2 things I need you to do are, in Canvas, in your assignments, if you go into, so on your page, you can change this to show by date. And if you show by date, you'll see upcoming assignments. I want you to do this discussion, that's due today, and then this delta math. That's on what we just did. Now, if you finish those and need to do your slope, one is an informative, and then the other one is a formative. So do the writing ones first, then you can do slope or previous ones, and then after you do the writing, if you need to work on retake work, you can do that.